Hello everyone, my name is Aniedi. I am an author, I am an activist, and also the executive director, Aniedi Foundation, a non-profit organization that focuses on gender equality, gender-based violence and health awareness, education and entrepreneurship, and also human rights advocacy. Today is November 25th, and it is recognized as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. Why? Because 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by their intimate partner. Violence against women and girls is a human rights violation, and we can prevent violence against women and girls by teaching boys not to be violent, not to be abusive, rape, stalk, maliciously harass, and all that. And we can achieve this through an increased awareness campaigns and also modeling better behaviors where boys can learn firsthand how to treat women and girls with respect and dignity. Story sharing is also an effective tool in teaching everyone about core values such as respect, diversity, tolerance, and inclusion. This is why on this day I'm going to be doing a brief reading from my book, The Abandoned, which advocates for social change. The Abandoned is a collection of 10 short stories about gender-based violence, period poverty, bullying, teenage pregnancy, cultism, and so on and so forth. It is an incredible resource for social change. So, Villain is the 9th story in this book. And Villain, we're going to look at exactly how gender-based violence works. So this book, the purpose of this story was to paint a perfect picture and just campaign against violence against women and girls. It encapsulates the effects of violence against women and children. You know, there's a saying that when 2 elephants fight, the grass suffers. And in this case, the children are involved, and it is not a good thing. It affects them badly. So while writing this story also, I had tried as much as possible to create a leveled ground where men are also seen as victims of domestic violence, because it is very real. And when we want to address the issues of gender-based violence, domestic violence, we have to actually admit that men encounter violence from women. So it is important that everyone knows these values and applies these pertinent values where they can, both genders can respect and tolerate each other. Because without respect, there's going to be violence, there's bound to be abuse. So it is important that both gender respect each other. Respect is reciprocal. So I'm going to do this reading from one of the short stories here, titled Villain Creates Awareness and Campaigns Against Gender-Based Violence. So walk with me. The protagonist in this story is a young woman, young married woman. Her name is Patricia, and she has 2 children. Her husband is using her as a punching bag. It's a very touching story, but you're going to learn something. It is a great tool for learning. So walk with me. The situation at home became increasingly worse with the nightmares and the sleepless nights. This home was a war front, a haunted house just like in the horror movies. The strain of an unhappy home accompanied Lara and Sunday, her 9-year-old brother, to school. Their classroom now became their resting abode and unlimited sleep. "Wake up, Lara. Mr. Ruben is here, and the class is about to start," Semedion whispered to sleepy Lara, tapping her gently on the shoulder. The two girls sat side by side in the classroom. Semedion, a 12-year-old, petite-looking girl, was the best friend of 11-year-old Lara, whose face bended on her desk. It turned out Lara was already in a dreamland at just 9 a.m. by the time Mr. Ruben, their English teacher, arrived. Mr. Ruben was among the teachers who had noticed the fallback of Lara's grades. Her brother, Sunday, on the other hand, was a sleepy Sunday too. It would be unpleasant for Mr. Ruben to catch Lara sleeping again in his class on that very Monday morning. That was why Semedion did right by waking up her best friend by whispering nicely, announcing Mr. Ruben's arrival. It was a Sunday morning in November. The weather signaled a beautiful day where students were expected to stay smart and also be up and doing. Unfortunately, that was a far cry from Lara, as she was already dozing again midway into her English language class. "Too early a time to sleep, Lara. Too early a time to sleep," Mr. Ruben uttered with a direct gaze at one of his sleeping students, Lara. All eyes followed Lara, along with giggles from her classmates. And like a cat, Lara turned sluggishly and opened her eyes, stifling a yawn. She must have mistaken her classroom desk for her bed at home. "Lara," Mr. Ruben called gently. "Stand to your feet for a while. Stretch your legs and hopefully that sleep will run away from you," he said playfully, but solemn at the same time. The young student giggled again at Lara as Lara sprung up, tiredly scratching the back of her head. She was yawning again, but more quietly this time, and about 5 minutes later, she was acquitted by her teacher. The previous night was hell at home, as usual, and it all started with a common banter at the dining room while everyone gathered for dinner. For once, the children had anticipated a beautiful evening. From the aroma of the grilled chicken in the oven, the smell of the jollof rice that had them salivating all around the house and couldn't wait for dinner time. But it seemed every little thing triggered the beasts in Itoro, their young, wealthy, but primitive-minded father. The table was set, dinner was served, and the children gathered. Itoro seemed to rather take too long in the bathroom, and the hungry children ran out of patience and decided to move along with their dinner without him. After saying the Lord's Prayer, but Patricia, their lovely, elegant, yet quiet mother, had to stick to her patience by waiting still for her husband to join them in the dining before she ate. Patricia had hoped that with a tasty dinner as what she had made, everything would go well. Her husband was insatiable, too difficult a man. "Something smells nice." Itoro appeared, bare-chested and fresh-looking in his black pajama pants. He was black, tall and as huge as his ego. "Not only does the food smell nice, Daddy, it's yummy, yummy, yummy. Mommy is the best cook in the whole world," Sunday announced with a touch of joy in his eyes, beaming like the little boy that he was. After which he took a big bite of his enormous grilled chicken. "Your mommy cooks the best food in the world, huh?" Toro had responded in a tone full of sarcasm. "All right, let's see," he added quickly as he sank into the yellow leather dining chair that stood right opposite his wife, the dining table separating them. "Don't worry, Daddy. You'll enjoy the meal," Lara said in a bid to cajole their father. She could sense some tension in the air, having gazed at her father intently. He had given her many reasons to, and sarcasm had become so loud and clear to the 12-year-old girl. Her eyes quickly darted to her mother, and there was a silent fear in Patricia's eyes. For many years, this man had boxed his wife so tightly that she couldn't tell what marital bliss was like. "Dish me my food, or are you blind? I am in my chair, and you're still staring there like a zombie," Vittorio blurted out. He was talking to his wife. Patricia stood up quietly from where she was seated and dished him some food, after which she dished some for herself. "Lara, did you pray before starting to eat?" inquired Itoro, his eyes on his plate of food. "Yes, Daddy, we said the Lord's Prayer." This is tasteless. Why is this tasteless? No salt in the house? Of course, there is no salt on the dining table again. Itoro flared up the moment he had a spoonful of jollof rice in his mouth. "But Daddy, the food is tasty. It's not." Lara tried to pacify her father, but he snapped at her. "Will you shut your mouth, Lara?" Itoro's eyes on Patricia. "Why is there no salt on the table, Patricia?" he asked, his eyes red with fury. An impending dilemma engulfed the atmosphere. It was usually how it started. A simple thing would get blown out of proportion, and within a twinkling of an eye, everything went south. "You know you can ask nicely for some salt without having to make everyone panic, sweetheart." Patricia was as calm as ever. Alice, please get us the salt jar. I have told you times without number not to even bother moving it from the dining table." Alice was the help. She was in the kitchen, adjacent to the dining room. The salt jar was brought to the table in a matter of seconds. "Here you go." Patricia collected the jar of salt and stretched it out to her pained husband from across the table, but he hissed instead. "So, first of all, you mean you are too big to get up and get me some salt from the kitchen? And now you are too heavy to stand and hand me the salt? You also want to teach me how to talk in my own house? Who is your mate?" Itoro raved. And what followed was a tall glass of water that he picked from the table and stoned Patricia on the forehead. Before he knew it, blood was gushing out of his wife's forehead. He had given her a deep cut. There was panic. The children were wailing, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy!" And then Alice running into the scene with wet hands, confused. Itoro panicked too. He hurried his wife to the hospital. And that was how the night ended abruptly. Lara and her brother stayed up crying. They vehemently refused to go to bed, but preferred to wait up until their mother returned from the hospital that night. They didn't care how long or what time it would take. They wanted to be sure, they wanted to be in the know that their dear mother was alive and okay. Unfortunately, their parents did not return from the hospital until after midnight. Patricia was given several stitches and advised by the doctor to take a bed rest and avoid driving at night by herself because the times were bad And only because Patricia lied to the doctor about how she was attacked by armed robbers on her way back from a visit to some family friends that night. There was no courage to tell the truth. She was too ashamed and afraid to speak about the long-time abuse she had been facing in her marriage. Her husband had deprived her of so many things, including her aspirations to be a working-class woman, and she was a graduate of food science. She was a stay-at-home mom, battered and unhappy. Patricia was under siege. She would conceal her domestic violence story at every chance. It was a needless and dangerous bravery. So, I'm going to stop there. Domestic violence is a terrible thing, and according to statistics, women and girls are more vulnerable to violence. So this is why we're using storytelling approach to campaign against violence against women and girls. Please join hands together. Let's join hands together and see that we can have a violence-free society for women and girls and men, everyone. Peace is sweet. So end violence against women and girls. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Don't forget, The Abandoned is on Amazon, and for each copy that is sold guarantees one vulnerable schoolgirl a sanitary pad to help her experience period with dignity and not miss school because of period poverty. Thank you so much. Get The Abandoned on Amazon. Hard copies are also available, and you can call us anytime. Email us at aniedi18foundation@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. End violence against women and girls.